Let's move on to the 5 takeaways. We're going to take a look at the 3-2 win against Brentford and see what 5 things we can take away from the game. And up first, we're going to be talking about that Werners Impact.
Yeah, and obviously made his 2nd start in the league, his 3rd start overall, TIMO Werner. And really, really positive from him. And he's already making an impact on the left wing on his loan deal. We know he's only here potentially for 6 months. We'll have to wait and see in the summer whether we do take that on permanently. But, you know, he's been asked to make an impact and make it quickly. And that's exactly what he's doing, especially with the numbers. And obviously unfortunately didn't get the assist for the first goal, but
we'll give it to him.
If we give it to him, it's 3 assists now in 3 games, or 3 assists in 2 Premier League games is I think it's a better way of putting it. He had 3 key passes on the day, won 3 of his 4 duels as well. That was an underrated thing, how hard he worked as well off the ball, which was really, really positive. And he's really sort of like on the left hand side, using his pace, using his width as well. He's really making an impact in terms of how Ange Postecoglou wants to play his system. And a lot of people doubted whether he would make an impact in this team, and after 3 games, thankfully we can say that he started really, really positively.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I'm loving watching him play, to be honest. He's getting better and better as each game progresses. He's making the right runs, he's finding good spaces. His pace is going to be such an asset to this team, already is such an asset to this team. And you know what I love most about Werner, though, is how happy he seems to be here. You saw him in that interview after the game, how he was saying, when the Spurs made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up, and he just seems like so happy to be here. Goosebumps, that's it. Goosebumps. I mean, I'm really starting to like him, and I'm really starting to love how he just wants to be here. And he's like, I think he sees this as a real opportunity for him.
Maybe you can see why, even though he didn't work out at Chelsea, the Chelsea fans are still very fond of him.
Yeah,
he's a very likable person.
Exactly. But let's move on to number 2, and that is Madison's return.
Yeah, so look, first start since that Chelsea game back in November, and I thought it was a really positive return for Madison. Not his best game, that's for sure, and he's had better games, and I'm sure he'll only improve. And in the first half, he did look a bit rusty and a bit sloppy, but his numbers were still pretty strong in terms of how the game progressed. He won 9 of his 13 ground duels, which is incredible for a player like James Madison, you know, who's known as more of a creator and a flair player. So shows he really put a foot in, really worked hard. He won 4 fouls on the day, 3 key passes, 3 tackles as well, 2 out 2 dribbles, and 110 touches on the day as well. So was involved a lot in the game, and definitely grew as the game went on. Definitely had a much better second half, was much more involved in the game, and I think he showed glimpses of what we were missing since he's been out. So really, really positive. And I think the main thing there, even though he was maybe on it at his best on the ball, even though he did improve, 9 out of 13 ground duels for a player like him, that's, you know, a figure you would associate with a Basuma or a Højbjerg or something. And for that, James Madison is really, really impressive. Shows that even when he's not having his best game on the ball, not a liability often, he puts his all into the game.
You know what, though? That doesn't surprise me at all. I think he was doing that work off the ball before he got injured, and that was a key asset to his game. On the ball and off the ball, he's absolutely top-notch. On the ball, in the first half particularly, was really poor, but he grew into the game, as you said. And as well, in terms of his off-the-ball work, it is something that I noticed from him in his last season for Leicester. He was doing it consistently, time and time again, dropping deep, winning duels, being a real asset to winning the ball back consistently, time and time again. And that's what we need in this Spurs team. We need our attacking players as well as our kind of, you know, the usuals, the Basumas, the Bentancurs, all these players to be an asset for us off the ball. We need players like James Madison to drop deep, win the ball back quickly, so we can set out on our attacks and surprise the opponents and spring on our opponents. And I think that's why James Madison's so good for this football club.
Definitely.
But let's move on to number 3, and that is Ange changes the game.
Yeah, and those changes were so crucial at halftime to win Spurs that game, because in the first half, really struggling to break Brentford down. We were kind of slow, stodgy, weren't really affecting the game in the first half. We had 6 shots on goal, only 0.54 XG in the first half as well. So weren't really looking like scoring. Brentford were much the better side, and in fact we had 72 possessions, so we had a lot of possession, but we weren't really hurting Brentford, and it was kind of a lot of meaningless possession, which is something Ange constantly talks about. Doesn't like possession for possession's sake. He likes possession for a purpose.
Yeah,
that wasn't happening in the first half. But second half, he made the changes. He brought Johnson on, made the pitch a lot wider, made more space in the centre, brought Kulusevski on to exploit that space as well. Sorry, he put Kulusevski in the centre to make sure that once we made that pitch wider, we had more quality in those central areas to make sure we're exploiting that extra space we're going to get. And it worked an absolute treat, completely blitzed them. In that second half, in fact, we had 13 shots, 2.47 xG in that second half, which is a really high mark.
How much xG did we have outside the first 10 minutes of the second half, though?
I think those 3 goals were probably near all of it, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly.
It was a lot of it. We did have a few opportunities apart from that, but that would have made up, because there were 3 really clear-cut opportunities, obviously, for the goals. But obviously, we did completely blow them away in that second half, and a lot of it was to do with how Ange changed the game, how tactically he changed it as well, and obviously that talking to he gave at halftime about not getting too involved in those scraps and those stupid moments. So Ange tactically was, I thought, brilliant in those changes.
Yeah, I think he would have been upset with maybe what happened after we scored the 3rd goal, and obviously what happened in the first half. But I'd love to be a fly on the wall at halftime at the Spurs Stadium yesterday, because he must have just laid into them at halftime, because they deserved it, to be honest. Because we shouldn't be giving up so many chances to Brentford like that at home. We just shouldn't. But let's move on to number 4, and that is a mixed day for Destiny Udogie.
Yeah, it was a weird one from Destiny, because I think overall, when you take his overall performance, like taking away like the big moment in the game, which is like the goals and the goals conceded, stuff like that, like if we're talking about his overall performance, actually pretty decent. 5 of his 10 duels won, 2 tackles, 2 interceptions, 6 clearances, one of his two dribbles completed as well. So he was having a pretty decent day, but he did make those 2 horrible errors for both goals. The first one, really lackadaisical pass, which was intercepted, and it allowed Brentford to get on our goal very quickly, and obviously led to more pie putting in the first goal. Second goal, completely a bit of a brain fart. Didn't see Ivan Toney when next to Vicario, can just pass it straight to him, gives him 1-on-1, and it's a goal. And so on the face of that, you're thinking, oh, he's had a bit of a shocker. But going on the flip side, heavily involved in the goals we did score, and really made positive impact going forward. Heavily involved in obviously scored the first goal, but obviously involved in the build-up as well. Played the ball out wide to Werner, followed it up into the box, muscled his way in and got the first goal. The second goal, the third goal as well, charged his way through that centre of the park after a good pass from Højbjerg. Played a lovely ball into James Madison, who obviously conjured up the third goal as well into Richarlison. So really affected the game really positively going forward as well. So on a day where he made 2 really bad errors, and you probably on another day you're walking away from that saying he had a shocker and had a really bad game, actually it was, I wouldn't say a positive display, but ended up with some really key positives as well going forward. So it was a mixed day for him, it's fair to say.
If those 2 mistakes don't happen with those dodgy passes, you're probably giving him an 8 out of 10, something like that. I think that's how well he actually played. I said it before in the player ratings, like he's a steam train. Like as soon as he gets the ball and he starts running, you just can't get the ball off him. He's so physical for someone of his age as well. 6 months in the Premier League of someone so young. It's just so impressive what he's done in the Spurs shirt. It was just so frustrating to me, those lazy and stupid passes that he did. I wouldn't say the second one was lazy, but the first one was most definitely lazy. The pass to Bentancur when they scored their first goal. The second one was just a bit silly. But, it's just I wouldn't say it's a bit of a theme, but it has happened a couple of times now throughout the season. Cast your mind back to the West Ham game. He did that stupid pass where West Ham scored, I think, Jared Bowen. And he just needs to cut these things out of his game. And I think we won't have any complaints about him whatsoever. The guy, I'm in love with the guy. I think he's absolutely brilliant. He just needs to cut these few things out of his game.
Yeah, needs to stop doing those Steven Gerrard-esque back passes.
Exactly. And then 5th and final takeaway is into the top 4.
Yeah, so really crucial moment. Obviously, Aston Villa losing to Newcastle on Tuesday night, 3-1 at home, which left the door open for Tottenham to get their way into the top 4. Considering how good Villa have been for a lot of the season, especially at home, really good moment for Tottenham to overtake them, considering, we had a lot of struggles in after the Chelsea game, and we had a lot of period with a lot of players out, and we had to deal with a lot of difficulties in the squad. And I said at that moment that our form in those first 10 games means that we can afford to have a bit of a bad spell and still keep ourselves in the hunt of the top four. And that's exactly what's happened. Even with the players coming back now, we're right in that fight for top four. In fact, we're only 3 points away from second place Man City, who do have a game in hand, but we're only 3 points away from them at the moment. So really, really great. We've got some really decent fixtures coming up. I know Everton's a tough one, but after that, I think we play Palace at home.
Brighton first.
Brighton at home. Play Palace. I think Wolves as well. So some really good opportunities for Spurs to start to go on a bit of a run, pick up some points, and look, who knows if we can keep pace with the top two, or the top three, I should say. Maybe we can have a really special end to the season, and I'm really, really excited. But being back in the top four, because I think we've been out of it for a while now, being fifth, but being back in the top four, being a backup of Villa is really, really great.
Yeah, and Villa are having a bit of a wobble at the moment, aren't they?
1 win in 5 for them.
Yeah, 1 win in 5. They just lost a home game, which they've been so strong at home all season, to a Newcastle side who have been losing every game away from home. So they're having a wobble. We need to capitalise on that, and I think we are doing that. And with all the players that we have coming back now, Heung-min Son will be back. I think he misses a maximum of 2 more games. Pape Matar is back. You're going to start seeing those options off the bench as well. So I think this second half of the season is a lot to be excited about. I actually said just before the players went off to the AFCON and Asia Cup, I said if Spurs can keep in and amongst the top, like in touching distance of the top by the time these players come back, then I think we could last the distance and actually be in a title race this season. I do think we're going to fall a bit short. We're a bit too far away now, being 8 points behind Liverpool at this stage.
Just look relentless at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. So I do feel like we are a bit too far away now. So I think a title race is beyond us, but I think we should definitely be able to confirm our place into the top 4 for sure.
I think that'll be a brilliant season, considering how we were at the beginning of the season. It was very difficult to see us in the top 4. A lot of people saying top 6 is a good season and shows progression. So the fact that we're talking about right now that we have a really good chance of making it back into the Champions League at the first time of asking is super impressive. Yeah,
and there's just so much to look forward to. Like if we do get top 4 this season, even if we finish 3rd and finish above Arsenal, what a season that is. Judging by where we were at the start of the season, losing Harry Kane after finishing 8th in the table, you're just fearing the worst. And we've responded in a really good way. Ange has been perfect for this football club. And if we have a really good summer window and in the Champions League next season, it could be a very special year next year.
Could well be. Could well be.
But that is your 5 takeaways from the 3-2 win against Brentford. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section